Today's topic is writing and publishing your book in 1 year. If you've got 5 minutes, I've got 5 tips for you from my new book, 1 Year to Author. Imagine finally finishing the book that you've always wanted to write. And then imagine holding it in your hand. For many people, this is only a dream. Well, in my new book, 1 Year to Author, your roadmap guide to writing and publishing your book this year, I'm going to take you by the hand on a journey that will take you on that journey through that year, through 12 months of how to write and get your book published. So that if you started it at the beginning of January, by December 31st of that year, you'd be holding it in your hand. In that book, and today, I'm sharing with you what I've learned in over 40 years as a writer who started in nonfiction, who moved into fiction, who has written for magazines and blogs, and has written books. I've written academic articles, I've written textbooks, even that people still use. I've done some self-publishing after a career of publishing only with traditional publishers in Canada, the United States, and the United Kingdom. So I've written this book to gather up all of the information that I think would be useful for you to write that book in 1 year. But I thought today it would be really fun to do 5 tips, the 5 big overall tips from that book. And it doesn't matter whether you write fiction or narrative nonfiction in particular, although it probably could also apply largely to prescriptive nonfiction. This is one of the ways that you can power through and get a book done in a year. So here are my 5 tips. Tip number 1, overall tip from the book. It doesn't matter whether you're a plotter or a pantser, as they call them. You cannot accomplish a goal of writing and publishing a book in 1 year without planning. As I mentioned, I started my career in nonfiction writing in health and medicine. And I was an inveterate outliner. It was extremely important in this particular genre to be an outliner. But over the years, as I've evolved my writing, and I write more fiction now, my writing process, my planning process has become quite different. However, if you think that outlining or doing any kind of outlining or pantsing is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about planning, I'm talking about so much more than that when it comes to planning your book. Do you know how to select your book's best genre? The best genre for telling that particular story that you want to tell? Are you able to figure out the premise of your book? Have you discovered your theme? Have you chosen what tense you're going to use to write the book in? The point of view, all of these are parts of the planning process. And if you're going to write a book in a year, you're going to have to get this sorted out before you actually put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard. Tip number 2, from the very beginning, establish a routine that sees you writing every day. Developing a personalized routine for your writing on a daily basis is the only way you're going to power through and get the writing finished in the length of time to allow you to then publish your book in a year. Do you know how to develop a daily writing habit? Can you prevent writer's block? Do you have good time management skills? Do you know how to use deadlines? All of these are important parts getting to the finish line. Tip number 3, the content of your writing, your story, and the technicalities of writing, things like grammar, syntax, punctuation, are equally important. So you might be a great storyteller, but can you write well? As William Zinsser said, most people have no idea how poorly they write. So do you have the technical skill to write this book? How are you going to get that technical skill? If you don't have it, how are you going to fix that? Do you know how to self-edit? Do you know how to use the services of a professional editor and what a professional editor can do for you? You need answers to all these questions. Tip number 4, if you are planning to write and publish in 1 year, you are going to be self-publishing. This is an important concept for people to understand, the time frames involved in self-publishing versus traditional publishing. First of all, let's say you've decided you would really like to publish through a traditional publisher. Well, it's probably going to take you a year or two or even more to find an appropriate publisher, if you ever do. Then if you do, that's terrific. You sign a contract, it's going to be at least 18 months, if not more, before you actually see your book published by that publisher and on their website and in their list of books. So the time frame does not allow you to publish traditionally if you're going to do it in a year. But the fact is that you may not know a great deal about self-publishing. Do you understand self-publishing? Do you know the amount of work that's involved? Do you know how much it's going to cost? Do you know where to publish your book? Do you know how to format your manuscript? Do you know how to get it onto a publishing platform? All of these can be learned, and they can be learned within the year, but they're things that you absolutely must master. Tip number 5, finding your book's audience might be harder than you think. There are 3 overarching components of the marketing mix as applies specifically to books: cost, connections, and communication. Do you know how much to charge for your book? What price will you put on it? Are you well connected with people? Do you have a plan for communicating your book to a wider audience? All of these are important parts of learning to market a book, if you want someone to read it other than your immediate family. So all of these are important overall tips for you if you're planning to write a book in a year. But if you want more detail, I would suggest that you might be interested in the book 1 Year to Author. I offer it to you as a resource that might help you. And if it does, I'd love to hear about it. Happy writing. Subscribe to Write, Fix, Repeat. And maybe I can help you improve your writing knowledge and skills. 5 tips at a time.